Hello War of the Visions fans, I'm Jackie Fox, and today we're going to talk about the state of Arena in March of 2024. This is with the release of Dario. We're going to be seeing Dario in some different ways. If you saw Dario's guide to PvP building, and if you are a newer or returning player and you really need to catch up with a lot of the newer mechanics in the game and how you build for them in PvP, check out that video. It's also a really good companion piece to my earlier video on how each of the elements are doing. Again, if you're kind of returning to the game after a while, or you're a new player, or it's really been a while since you've played this game, these are both good sources for refreshing. But if you've seen those already, or if you just need more details because you're a more advanced player and you're working on getting your Folka, then this video is going to be where it's at. And in this video, I'm going to be choosing, instead of using one team and showcasing a brand new unit, I'm instead going to be using a variety of teams, about 6 teams, and instead of showing off those units, because you've seen most of these teams before for the most part, I'm going to instead be looking for newer units in my opponents, and I'm going to be trying to fight a lot of battles that maybe I can lose. Because what I'm searching for here is some examples of teams that break traditional stereotypes for wotv. So I'm going to be, say, facing teams that I should be winning due to elemental synergies, but maybe losing because of other synergies that other teams have going better for them than I have going for me. Because it's definitely a bit of a different environment than it used to be, and I think that this way of taking a look at it is going to be a pretty good cross-section of the wotv meta. So instead of sitting through 40-some load screens in Arena, I'm going to show you my farming for one day in Arena, give or take a little bit. Some of the more boring matches I cut out. Some of the really obvious and quick wins. You know, you gotta level up as you go. You don't always see like a really entertaining match. So let's get started. First off, I'm going to be playing with my Pierce team. Like I was saying in my last video, these job type synergies are very powerful. And I do want to point out that I'm relatively close to getting Veritas of the Heavens into 140 at the very least. But I've kind of hit a cap on what I can do in game, so I've really got to rely on the barracks for him right now. So let's see what my piercing team can do. Since I have Oelde, I do have a fair matchup against other fire teams, so let's see how this does against fire. And also using, you see the new TMR for Veritas of the Winds. You may see this on a variety of teams. It's quite powerful, and I just saw Glaciela get that off like right off the bat to nullify haste and things like that. So that's going to be a really interesting change, although I don't think it really affects my opponents in particular, but against certain teams that's a really powerful introductory attack. They're also grouping up and buffing really well. Seeing Rob's armor, one of the classic TMRs, returning players will now say, well, not much has changed, and a lot has, but glinting armor is still amazing. So everybody's ready to go. They're all bunched up really nicely. Let's start doing damage. Ooh, okay, so Soul's probably the biggest threat here, but he's down. So, I mean, I guess Kefka is also a bit of a... No, okay, that Kefka's not going to do nearly enough damage to take out anyone on this team, especially not Oelde. He is surviving and doing things, but yeah, this is one of the reasons why I say that fire is pretty weak. I didn't even have a huge advantage over them. I just had a good, well-built, like modern synergy team, and one elemental advantage, and it kind of steamrolled through them. Let's try another fire team though. This one's gonna be with a lot more evasion. Also, Valentine's Oldira got a huge upgrade to her LB recently. And I mean, that was already my favorite part of her kit, so this is pretty interesting for her. It makes her a better evasion unit. It makes her a better, like, it plays into her perfect playstyle as well. Like, giving her an evasion boost for doing exactly the thing you want her to do is pretty great. So let's see if that comes into play here. Let's also see if they can evade my units. One advantage of piercing teams is that a lot of Lancers typically natively have a lot of accuracy, and I think for these three especially, it's very true. I think typically I'm used to Glaciela being my most accurate wind unit, and I would imagine that Sid is no slouch either, while Oelde definitely has some anti-evade kit himself. And as you can see, not even having trouble with the Yuffie there. We're doing great. We've got Courage up and Mont. I mean, being a tank, he's not really expected to do a lot of damage here, but really not doing a lot of damage here. And once again, it's not just because I have that elemental strength against him. He's not really hurting my whole team. Again, he's the tank. He's not really supposed to, but I'm kind of impressed by how tanky every part of this team can be before people start breaking them down. And a big part of that, I think, maybe is this attack reduction that's just happening right off the bat. Like, it's really helping me against physical teams. Would that TMR and would this opening and would this team in general be as good against a magic-based team? Well, we'll see if we can line up with any of that, but for the moment, this is going to be kind of a hybrid team in that, Noctis is a lot more physical, but he definitely has a magic in his kit. Definitely a more physical unit, but we do have Renoa, who probably isn't going to be doing damage. Yeah, this is a more physical team, so really within the wheelhouse of this team. And since I have 2 wind element units here, I was going to say Earth should be more safe, but they've already done more damage than the fire teams were doing, even though they're lining up with, wow, actually they're getting close to taking down Glaciela, and I don't really have healing here, so this could be, yeah, that's a problem for her. So this is kind of a testament to how much damage Oberon is still capable of doing, but at the same time, wow, look at that AoE shredding and just back to back. Oh my gosh. So Veritas of the Wind was like, step aside, peons, let me take them out. And really that shows you kind of how, while Glaciela is still quite powerful, a more modernized unit, even at 120, I think Sid is going to be very powerful and kind of in the same vein, but maybe even more powerful in some ways. So here's another type of Earth team. We're going to put some magic in here this time, see how that works against us. Also, there's a gunner here, which this should play to our strengths as well. Typically, we both have similar ranges, which make us good matchups with gunners, by which I mean Lancers. Lancers also typically wear heavier armor and tend to natively have more missile resistance. But the magic should be a little bit of a problem. Also, this team isn't quite as dramatically affected by the attack down. Gunners usually don't have the highest of attack to begin with. They tend to get a lot more of their damage stats from other types of modifiers. Although, I guess she does hit particularly hard, so that's a little bit of all of those things. But as you can see, definitely playing even more to my elemental advantage here, and definitely taking on some harder teams. And you can see in some ways that they are hitting a lot harder than some of the fire teams were. And again, kind of why I've got to rank fire kind of low. But let's see how my strike team does. Now, strike teams this week or so are going to be having a huge benefit alongside Katana. So it's really the Katone and Dario month, and I'm really enjoying that for my strike team. These are also a variety of older units, so I don't expect this to be particularly tough, but I am going to try to give 2B an opportunity to shine here. Maybe through evasion she can take me down. Maybe she can, I don't exactly know how that's going to help them a lot. She is already dodging Alaya, so that's good. But her partners just got bodied pretty easy. Ooh, preemptive counter really hurt. She is draining some HP, but not a lot. Doing okay damage, but not dodging enough. Okay, well, that feels like an unfortunate match. But as you can see, they were older units. I wanted to give them the opportunity maybe to have more reincarnations and surprise me. Especially Halloween Little Leela can be pretty powerful, pretty well ranged to deal with some of these units, which have a little bit of a weak spot to magic. But she just went down way too early in the fight, wasn't able to either take people out or provide support, which is really what she's here for. So let's look at a more modernized, and like a lot of these units have been built up well and have been historically the best units in the game as they came out for a while into the future. The most fresh of this is going to be Vivi, and I think Vivi's also the most problem for my team. One, because I don't really have tech for stun. Two, because I'm really built way more for defense than I am to resist magic, and this dude is relatively durable, so he can really threaten my health for a long time. And then Sephiroth is just always a bit of a threat and has the ability to remove courage and Reraise, which I do have in some places on this team. Also, oddly enough, Sephiroth is just blitzing his way around my attacks, just dodging everything. That procced off all the courage except for one, and then Sterne finished us all off. Wow, that is a lot of damage. That hazard render really set us up for absolute failure. I'm glad to see that that skill is finally really demolishing things. Like, it's what it always should have been, and it's always kind of been that, and I'm glad that they've kept it scaling. I know it's a lot harder to play Ruin Sterne. He's a lot more fragile and has less chance to evade a lot of the better units than ever, but he's definitely still a really fun unit, and I love to see him get ups, especially since he is pretty accurate himself. So here we are starting to engage with an ice team. This isn't an ice ranged team, but Velis is quite chronically good. Celir just got an upgrade for herself, and Snow's about to get an upgrade for himself in the coming days, and probably by the time you've seen this video. So this is definitely kind of what is more of an up-and-coming ice team, but it didn't really stand much of a chance. This team is probably going to dominate, especially because it's got some really strong synergies with the arena rewards for the moment. But this team does as well, and oh my gosh, it's really powerful. They have some really, really good vision cards in here, like really catering to all of their stuff through the benefits. And since it's a wind-based team, there's a lot of ways to fill in some of those gaps with wind cards. This is really the epitome of a lot of the things and a lot of the design that I was talking about for modern team building. And I do want to make a note that the Raegan I am using here doesn't yet have his MA2. It's unfortunate, it was available, but he doesn't have it yet. And ooh, no, it's not great that you circled back right there. And we've got wind resistance, that's going to be fun for us, but I have the feeling this team is going to be really hard to take out. What? Oh no, I got charmed. Okay, that's a real complication. And there's a lot of like endurance sustain on their side of the field too. No, this just became a war on two fronts. Oh, that was such a significant charm. Charm absolutely ruined me. Oh no, and she's shooting me in the back too. What a traitor. I'm not sure exactly how well this team would have done if they hadn't got an incredibly opportune charm on my ranged unit, which allowed them to basically stand right next to her and ping her out. I'm not doing a lot of damage to Dario, but, you know, he's not really meant to take magic damage that easily anyways. Yeah, I think I just got screwed on this one, but it would have been a little bit difficult to win anyways. This team was really well built. This is another variant on wind that I see built around Dario a lot. It's really focusing on Pierce a lot more heavily, but it also has Dario as its tank, and it has wind to cover its back. So it's pretty similar to some of the teams that we've seen before. It's really, like 2/3 of this team is my Pierce team. It just has Dario up front instead of Oelde. So a slightly newer version of that team, you could say. Even though it's one that probably doesn't lean as hard into the job-based VCs. That's a little bit of an advantage, I could say, but it's going up against its bitter rival Ice, and our physical units are really cutting through Dario quite quickly. We have just a few too many advantages on him. I've seen him contend with all manner of things pretty well, although he definitely deals with magic the most oppressively. But against physical Ice, it just seems like he falls apart rather quickly, and that's really leaving the rest of his team open to get wiped. And we didn't even really take any damage here that Velis couldn't sustain. Just an incredible match for us, even though our opponent was definitely pretty good. So let's see if... Yeah, here we go. I've already faced a team... or I will face another team like this in this video. I really like the way that this is working out, and I really want you to see the party abilities for this one too. It's a pretty cool build, even though it is a little bit all over the place. Unfortunately, there are a couple of both light and wind cards in here that don't benefit the entirety of the team, but they're also generic enough that parts of them benefit the entirety of the team, and the rest is a pretty good smattering of combination Katana Black Mage cards. This is a really good build, and I've seen a couple people running it. It's also quite powerful, so this is also a pretty natural place to go for this as well. Previously, they had been using Raph for this build. I'm currently using Raph for this build. I actually do have Dario on that account. I could switch over to this, in fact. I just haven't built up the Dario for that one quite to 140 yet, but you know what? As I'm thinking about it, this would be a really good anti-magic build because, Helena's got that reflect. She's got some resilience and healing as well. I think this team is really good, and my matches against it have been pretty interesting. But I'm not quite sure I have the same smattering of job-based VCs that really make this work and synergize. I'm not sure that I have exactly what I'm going to need to make this team as good as it could be. But here we see Dario doing a bit better against our physical stuff. We are still doing a lot of damage here, and wow, we really tapped Vivi out of existence there. But man, he has landed a lot of stun. We're screwed. Yep. Raegan might survive, though. Oh. Fella's trying to keep himself alive. Yeah, we just couldn't do enough damage to Dario fast enough. And we had even less of a chance against his friends. Very good team build. Like it a lot. Of course, that being said, this is a little bit of a... But neither of these teams are super fresh. I would say Bradley is finally really starting to feel his age a bit. And I do like Garnet a lot, but she is a 90 cost unit. That being said, I really think that she's amazing in Earth right now. Even though she is a 90 cost unit. Quite good. So let me show off against this Greatsword team. It's a shame I didn't get the job VCs, but it looks like a Greatsword synergy. A lot of ice here too, so maybe Astrius is missing out on a few buffs that the rest of the team is getting. But I would imagine that there's a lot of Greatsword benefits that are going across this team as well, because it seems like a very intentional Greatsword build from the way that the units are being chosen. And that being said, not a really big fan of Orin whatsoever, but as I remember, both of these characters are very dependent on their barriers, so they could potentially be a really good combination with A2. But let's see, already doing a lot of damage to Orin, but not taking anything out yet. Here comes A2 bodying Garnet, but she's back with Reraise. Can he hit all of us? No, but we do. Ooh, okay, so that non-elemental follow-up damage was able to finish things off, and now we are at a really bad place. Unless they can't hit Zazan, which honestly it's probably very possible with Astrius, but In fact, we still have some... Oh, no, she got re-raised. We still have some opportunity... Oh, no, she got accuracy up, too. Damn, that was just a really bad combination of events for Zazan. But also showing you that there are some really solid greatsword options right now. And I would even say, like, probably better without Arn, with a newer greatsword option. Even with Sterne, who we saw before... Maybe even, like, Hio. Okay, here they are. Yeah. That's a lot of good greatsword cards. But, wait, why is... Okay, I don't understand why Greater Demon's on here. It's not doing anything for anyone. But, you know, even despite that, very, very strong team, very strong synergy. Definitely put a lot of effort in your VCs. I see you, Sunshard. Very good job. Next up, maybe evasion versus evasion. We do have, their evasion unit is a bit older and definitely feeling his age a bit more, as he's only a 120 max. Definitely kind of hard to be Dragon Quest these days. But he's also like one of the units that in previous videos up until maybe a few months ago I've been saying was good enough. Situationally, was one of the better things in Fire and potentially could be a unit that could really trip up a lot of meta stuff. So let's see if he can deal with Earth. And this Earth theme is fairly accurate. Like, Bradley is pretty accurate himself. I think I have him built for more accuracy. And he has plus accuracy moves in his hit. He should be able to natively be able to deal with Sorrow pretty easily himself. And surprisingly, because of his tremendous luck, Zazan the Unkillable is not only a good evasion unit, but also fairly accurate. The thing is, Sorrow has a lot of that himself, being both good at evasion and good at accuracy, but not enough evasion to be able to deal with both of them, although he probably could have hit them at least eventually, which is what makes him a good unit. He is a double threat in that respect. Okay, there's an interesting one. A little bit of defense against... I mean, their tank being wind is very powerful. Like, I don't know if you think people are paying... I don't know what this is for, because you're picking the teams. So, do you want to fight Earth with this? Because that's what your tank wants to do, probably. But, like, none of the rest of your team does. So let's see how it does against Earth. Will Dario save it for the Lightning Boys, or will this just be way too much bad news for them? Because I don't think Dario is particularly accurate, and... I mean, Alaya is, and Lightning is. They're better for Lightning. They might actually be able to hit me, and... You know, as I've said before, and as I said in my units video, Lightning's advantage is her follow-up damage is... Oh, yeah, so we aren't doing damage to Dario very well at all. That's unfortunate. My main damage dealer is barely doing things. And I've been saying this for probably a year, but probably the best way to deal with Bradley is through elemental resistance, because he can't deal with a lot of the other ones. I mean, he can deal with a lot of the other ones, but this one not so much. Ooh, we got the dodge. Cool. Didn't dodge that, though. We're definitely laying in the damage. We've gotten through Dario at this point. We've almost gotten through Alaya. There we go. Okay, we've just got lightning, and we haven't taken much damage. Zazan did get the evade there, so we are looking like we can evade well. We got the crit, so we got evasion up, so she's probably not going to hit us, but now she's down. I know this team is, for the most part, pretty dated, especially Zazan being definitely an old man at this point. I think one of the first, like, premium 100 cost units, the first limited 100 coster. We've come a long way. Bradley had come a long way, and really the only new unit here is Garnet, but you can definitely see that even at high level PvP, up and towards the top of the range between 1,000 and 5,000, he's still performing admirably, and he still has things to do and can still absolutely dominate a match if you choose things well for him. This should be a pretty good example of that, and I kind of thought I'd cut matches like this out just because of how poorly they tend to go for the person on the other end, but well, there are some new units here. I mean, we don't see Squall too much, and that's kind of for a reason, But the other two are pretty good, so maybe this team has a chance. Also, pursuing Weaver Blade could actually do some damage here in the same way that Lightning can. And she actually is quite powerful herself. Her Stag Impact is going to be good against really almost anybody. I mean, even if it doesn't do a lot of damage, the removing CT can make things really bad for you. Getting hit with it multiple times is terrible. Okay, so we got Courage proccing on both sides, but they have way more units than me, even though they do have some sort of a disadvantage. But ooh, that is such a good heal. Full heal, no debuffs, and we have extra barriers. So that's going to enable Zazan to finish off Squall, but it looks like he's probably going to get finished. Yep, got finished by... Okay. We got Alaya, so now it is Astrius versus Garnet. Can Garnet bring this home? It is a tense match. Oh shit, she's poisoned. Oh shit, he got the Weaver Blade too. But we got... Oh, dead by poison. Well, you know, I didn't expect that, even in watching the replay, to go that poorly. I guess that's why I stuck that in there. Good job. This is another team that has the off tank in wind. I still don't understand why you would use this in arena. This would be a very good team in guild battle for sure. Like Hidden Dario would be amazing because he is able to deal with certain earth strategies so well. Especially earth magic, I would imagine. I would imagine he just shuts down earth magic, which is kind of a vulnerability of a lot of units like Esther. So putting Esther and new Dario on a team together, Dario hiding behind Esther in guild battle, I mean, that would definitely entice a lot of earth magic mains to attack you and get absolutely bodied by Dario. But, you know, it's definitely looking like a pretty good strategy, and also I definitely do not have the newer units in Spice, which is not working out super well for me so far. But let's see if... Oh... Okay, so Dark Golem didn't even break through the barrier. We've got Hate Up, we've got Healing. That's a lot of roll compression there. A tank that can heal while improving their own hate is just magnificent. Not necessarily accurate, but he's also damaging while he's doing that. So damage, heal, and Hate Up. Quite a good skill until he starts running out of it. Now, we definitely have enough healing, but I don't think we're going to be able to take him down with Zazan, so we've kind of hit a stalemate. I don't think that they can do damage to us necessarily quickly enough to take us out. They might even have trouble hitting us, but we're just not getting good damage against Dario either, so this is probably going to be more of a grinder. We did, good offensive heal there from Garnet, definitely keeping us in the game, even though, you know, we're not taking damage quickly, so it's not that bad. We may, at this rate, eventually get Alaya, but unless we can grind through all of that hate that Dario has accumulated, and we're probably doing a decent job of it, it's going to be harder to get us to target other people. But there we are, using that sequential ability again. It's one of Garnet's biggest advantages, is that she can use it multiple times. Even new Helena can't use her sequential ability with a follow-up heal multiple times. The only unit that can do that is Ferris, and, well, I guess Dario, too, now that I think about it. But we've come so close. Oh no, what the fuck? I definitely wanted to know what the end of that fight was like. That's unfortunate. Okay, so let's now look at my newer team. This is definitely a newer account and a team that you'll see all over the arena right now. Like, I'm sure you've seen this team before. This is Reraise Protection Tribal, Reraise Tribal team. This is a strategy somewhat outside of vision card stuff. This is building on unique strategies available for Reraise in the game right now, and the fact that several of these units are the best unit in the game. Again, as I showed you, I could swap out Raph for Dario. That would make this team a lot better into magical opponents, whereas the Raph version would be a lot better into defense, or rather physical versions. But at the moment, I don't have my Dario for this account built up too terribly well, so this is what I'm working with right now. It does fall apart just a little bit more to other Magic teams in that, Helena only has so much kit that's anti-magic, and she's not the tank. The tank really doesn't have a lot of anti-magic kit, but is a good enough generalist tank and can do enough cool things that, she can kind of make up for that. So really, if you want to specialize this team, you could do it that way. Although, well, the Light and Dark VC is... Dang it. Oh no. The Light and Dark VC is physical, so it's not really going to help this team. So you're only really going to lose the ability to use Dark VCs on two out of three characters here by switching Dario in. Also, some synergies that would have worked with the Katana. With the Mace. And Mace synergy with Black Mage is not going to work with Katana, so some job-based VCs won't work as well with Dario as with Raph, and I'm not sure how much that applies to the way that I have this built necessarily, because again, I haven't necessarily tested Dario with this team, but this is definitely a team that's quite powerful and that I have seen him on a number of times. And as you can see, it's still that combination of just trying to stun lock people out of the game, getting preemptive counters to deal with Courage and Reraise. You see that work a lot, and then keeping people slept in the back row. It's great. And this is a lot newer of an account, years newer than several of my accounts, and yet it was able to build up to this over time, starting around Sephiroth and building up until now. And I don't play it a ton either. It kind of just coasts and sits on its laurels for the most part, but still, because I lucked into these units, and I really did get both Helena and Vivi incidentally on lucky pulls, but then again, you also have to pull at least a little bit to get a lucky pull. But yeah, I definitely lucked into both of those, and I don't want to discount that, but also because of a lot of other things aside from just lucky pulls, it is notable that this team could be built so quickly, and for a player that hasn't been building for a long time, it's definitely going to be, for a lot of newer players, still something you'll have to build up to over maybe a couple of months, building VCs and, waiting for new units to complement the strategy that you're trying to make work, and they'll come eventually. So maybe it'll take a little while for that to happen, but you can absolutely get started and get somewhere near this power level in the future, even if it's not available to you as soon as you start the game. And also, we're definitely getting to see here how that Reraise removal on hit is so much more powerful than Reraise sealed, because sure, we just sealed it for 2 out of 3 of their characters, but they've already removed Reraise from my entire team in a hit and a counter. So, yipes. Also, this follow-up skill from Ketone is just amazing, because it can get triggered off, and it can trigger as a counter, and her counters triggering, and just everything that triggers a critical can get her CT up. She can be an absolute CT monster, and is definitely a powerful complement to the Strike team. And I think probably, again, I say this again, she has a really strong potential combination with units like Perrene, and Perrene also has a lot of CT up in her kit, but not quite spammable in the same way that Ketone does. But also, oh my gosh, I've had so many matches on this, on several accounts, where things will mostly go sideways, but Helena will survive, and without enough people to overwhelm her, she will just beat people's faces in and finish everything off. Definitely one of the stronger units in the game. Okay, so I have yet to find the exact Pierce Zidane but with Dario team for this video, I think. I don't think it's going to be anywhere in here. It's about as close as I got for fighting Zazan. I haven't seen a lot of Zazan in Arena recently. Although, again, I do contend that while he was not a unit that anybody was super excited about, because we got way too hype on the Reraise removal on the... I mean, honestly, the Vivi Helena synergy is still really good. That's why I've been talking about it, and it's going to occupy such a big place in this video. But there were definitely some players that should have pulled for Zazan who I think didn't even think about it because he got so overshadowed in this. And he's definitely quite a powerful character. And really, it often comes back to me, not even the ability to protect courage or whether or not that's important or anything, but it is this insult to injury follow-up skill. I've mentioned a lot of other characters who have follow-up skill so far. It's a really powerful ability, especially if you can't deal with it. And it often bypasses a lot of type of defenses, whether those be elemental defenses, whether those be defenses to physical, defenses to attack types, defenses to all sorts of things. It can bypass as they're generally some sort of typeless damage, but also the fact that they can carry other effects. Like we saw with Katone, those effects could be getting, extra effects on critical, so that's just another chance to do that thing, and that's really powerful for these characters, in addition to the fact that if you manage to survive one of these hits, either with Reraise or Courage, they may have enough damage to cancel that out, meaning that even if everything goes right for you and your Reraise strategy works and you get Reraise, that insult to injury could knock you out too, without even having to cancel your Reraise. That being said, if you have good single target resistance, that is one thing that should be able to mitigate that pretty well. But he's definitely a bit of a monster to play against. And definitely a good one if you're slow building him. If you've got him at like 120 right now and you've got him in your barracks, then he'll definitely be a solid unit for Wind's future. It's a shame more Wind players didn't pull him. It's a shame I didn't have the viz to. But there were admittedly a lot of really good things going on for Strike and for Water, so I kind of had to miss out on some Wind that I've had to catch up with Dario, I think. So here we are, continuing on with the Reraise Protection Tribal. Another Earth team here. I know I've played against Earth mostly with Wind or with a mostly Wind team, so I want to show you kind of what Earth is doing right now against a more neutral matchup. Of course, that being said, Earth doesn't necessarily have the best matchups with Magic-based teams, and this is a Magic-based team. So this matchup isn't nearly as neutral as it looks, but ooh, we took that damage really well too. Shit, and healed back up from it with Helena, so that's pretty rough. But it's also not the newest team. Newest unit here would be Bradley, and as I mentioned before, he's kind of starting to show his age while still being a pretty decent unit and pretty powerful. Also, wow, managed to dodge Helena. He does have a little potential for evasion, but it's nothing that ever tends to be reliable. Oof. Okay, so that's some damage, but that Reflect took her out of the game. But she does have that super Reraise. Hit the Threshold ability and triggered the Wizard's Rod. So that's going to give Vivi a lot of power to close this match out, and barely took damage. Again, this is a pretty new account, relatively speaking. Like, if you're having trouble right now, just remember that this is where you could be in not too much time. Also, big shout out to Lego Pants here from Hostile Takeover. Thank you so much for being an awesome person. Thank you so much for supporting my guild back in the day. I remember when some of the other Lego clothes showed up and supported us for a while. Definitely appreciate it. Glad to know you're still playing, even if the other Lego clothing pieces aren't. And I'm glad to be able to match up against one of your teams for my Arena Showcase video. It always feels good to be able to feature a fight with a friend in a video like this, so thank you for being there, and thank you for grinding this week in Arena so that I would be able to face off against you in this video. If you weren't competing, then I wouldn't be able to challenge you in this way, so super cool on you. Thanks for playing. And also, I think it's probably one of the smarter configurations to have healer, tank, DPS. It can leave you a little bit short on the damage, but Snow is pretty good for damage, and especially with this limit break upgrade that's going to be coming, he gets a little bit better for that. Although, I've got to say, of the upgrades that units get as a QOL, I really find that unless they're giving them additional casts, it's probably the most inconsistent. That being said, limit breaks are the most powerful, even with one cast, in Arena, so this would really be the place for Snow to shine after that upgrade. And, you know, this also kind of extends to the rest of the Final Fantasy XIII updated characters who are also getting upgrades to their limit breaks as well. This is definitely going to help them more in Arena than in Guild Battle, but hey, being a force in Arena is a thing of beauty all to itself. And we closed that one out even though we entirely got hit by Frostbite there. That was pretty rough. Hate being collectively frostbitten. Although, you know, as long as you are still in a place where you can close it out relatively quickly, being frostbitten isn't the worst thing for mages, because they have such high starting AP. Really, this crushes especially a lot of like older physical units, but it really crushes physical units that don't have good AP management. And AP management almost didn't exist at a certain point beyond AP refresh, and there's a lot of other ways to deal with that. If you combine frostbite type strategies with the TMR for the Veritas of the Winds, then you can create a scenario where not only are you reducing, I think it's reducing attack, turning off haste, but also you're able to cancel that out and even just, you know, you have a lot of tech for dealing with the ways that people tend to generate AP. But that being said, AP management is relatively strong with newer units where it's like AP consumption goes down, or they have, you know, a lot of native ways of raising things without necessarily doing this stuff. Like having AP auto restore, maybe they'll get it incrementally from critical hits or something. There's just a lot of ways of dealing with and making your AP work that weren't available before. So here we are in what is like the pre-Dario Primo win team with newer units. We're again using Glaciela to be like the star unit here, also one of the more accurate. And then we've got kind of the Swiss Army knife, really. And then Zazan here is the DPS. We still have a shot here, ladies and gentlemen, with Vivi, but it's looking grim. It's looking like our doomsday. Although we did stun the entire team, took out 2 of them. So actually it does look like we're going to win. That turned around real quick. Vivi, you sly devil. Okay. Here's another version of my team. Am I going to do a mirror match? No, but that does show you what a better build of this team. Again, I don't have the VCs. I haven't been here for as long. I can't build things up in the same way on this account. So this is as good as I could do. That would be what I showed you a second ago. Would be more of the ideal. And hey, the teams I'm showing you right now aren't bad either if you want to pause and take notes on any of them, but let me show you the strike team. The strike teams have a pretty big bonus right now in Arena, so if I can beat this one, it means pretty good things for me. It also tends to be a pretty volatile matchup. These guys are really good at blasting through units like me. I'm really good at blasting through units like them, so it's going to be pretty volatile when we finally meet in the center. I have a pretty good tank for this, though. I guess this might be a little bit worse for me if I was using Dario, although I would have, I guess, better resistance to 2P as well. But let's see what her deal is. I think she tends to be more evasive. That can be her really tricky thing. And I'm not sure how accurate my team is. So, like, I think for new units, Helena's accuracy is kind of middling. I'm not sure where Vivi is, but I know that Raph can't hit the broadside of a barn. Any amount of evasion is going to be a problem for her. Oh no, and that pushed evasion up. Oh, and a follow-up attack that's removing my protect. None of that is good. Also, it really goes to show like how similar she is to Catone and how much of a synergy there is there. Catone is no longer really that evasive of a unit anymore, at least this version of her isn't. She does a lot of other things. She has, instead of dodging your attack, she attacks you faster. Her speed has gone from being a defensive strategy to an offensive strategy, essentially. But 2P is kind of like the Catone package plus evasion, which is fairly cool. It's a shame I didn't give a shit and didn't think she would age well either, and kind of chose that I wanted to skip her. Also, I already have like units like Uriel. I know they're not the same, and I would definitely say that she's a lot better in a number of respects, but I don't know. You're going to have to try really hard to sell me on an evasion unit. That being said, there are a lot of ways in which a evasive Earth Striker is just a really great unit type. Kind of a shame I skipped her week. But, you know, this team would actually be a good demonstration of a lot of Earth Evasion units I've been sleeping on recently. Despite the fact that I love that as an archetype. I guess I've got to grab the next one, maybe. You know, I've got to have somebody to update my Zazan. Zazan. I guess my Zazan's getting to be an old boy. Also, kind of surprised at how many of these cards are... Oh, okay, it's getting a little worse. Are working for this team? Yeah, no, it's mainly a greatsword team that has a Dario crammed into it with a new VC that supports them both. But there's not a strong amount of synergy here. This is going to leave Dario kind of weak, but it should mean that the other folks on this team are pretty good. Also, this is another one of those places where A2's special ability to protect barriers is really going to come in handy. She is such a great combination with Astrius. He has so many barriers that need protecting. And I feel like I've hammered this point home until like I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but the protection abilities don't really help that much. Like the sealing abilities are not that great just because of mechanically how they work and how they fit into combat. They're better than nothing, and you see me using a Reraise tribal team, like, and still saying this. But my point is that's not the only thing that's working here, so I wouldn't put too much stock in A2's ability to add that to this team. I'm just saying that if any place it was going to make a big difference, I think this is probably the team it would make a difference on. Also, kind of a strong synergy with Dario. So, is this like the barrier tribal team of preference at the moment? Perhaps. Because I think he can also make it impossible for you to do magic barriers, or seal your ability to do magic barriers. I'm not sure how that one works off the top of my head in this video. It's been actually maybe a month since I did my review video for him. And kind of a side effect of me not using him as much in Arena is that I'm not as aware of what all of his techniques do. That triple drain is quite powerful though. I mean, look at that. You're healing two people, two different ways, putting hate up. So strong. Also, great chaining move, AoE damage. I feel like it even may have set that up a bit. Also, good combination there. So, like, there's a good synergy between A2 and Dario as well. they both have kind of a supplementary heal or a sequential heal effect. So that's just a lot of sequential healing, which means that they can effectively run without a healer and still have a lot of consistent healing. See, you know, like that preemptive counter might have taken him out of the game if it weren't for that. And look, there he is getting more hate and more HP. And it's interesting for Dario that all of his hate up tends to come with some sort of an HP up increment as well. This is pretty cool. He's, again, not like recovering the most HP every time, but this is pretty useful and pretty good tech. And like, while in my review I was wondering if he would run out of hate relatively easily, these things proc relatively often, at least in arena. Like, I'm not sure that it would be as consistent in guild battles still. You might have a little bit more trouble in round 2 when he's run out of triple drains, but that's still pretty good. I still think he would do pretty well, and I still think he would be relatively consistent in the second round. And there's a lot of units who peter out in round 2 of guild battle anyway, so it's not like it's a unique detriment to him. I haven't had a lot of chances to play against water anti-magic teams. I don't see them too often. They're not as great. Summer Elzarel is an anti-physical unit, but the rest of this is pretty anti-magic. And I am a magic team, so maybe they'll have an opportunity to win this one. Maybe. Getting all of the buffs applied, all of the... there's a lot of threshold heals on this team, as you'll see. At least on the dark portion of this team, there's a lot of threshold healing. So a lot of automatic healing here as well. We also have the sequential heal off of Helena's LB, so a lot of like... Between the last couple types of teams that I've been looking at here, there's a lot of ways to demonstrate that healers aren't necessarily as important. The role compression has shifted healing to be something that more characters are doing as a part of their kit. This really started with the sequential ability off of Ferris, and she's still a great example of this. Okay, got him with the reflect and closed that game out. So there's another win for Team Reraise Tribal, and this is what I'm working with here. So take a note. And I'm sure that you could do better than this, and I'm going to show you a slightly better version of... Well, actually, I'm not even using a lot of the same units. I do have Dark here, but I actually don't have Vivi or Raph on this account, unfortunately. So not a lot of the main synergies here with Helena. But if you do have Helena and you have maybe more traditional light units, fortunately this Sterne isn't Master Ability 2'd yet, because man, it's been a busy week with all this arena. And also Sylvie's pretty limited. You're going to see her do some ridiculous sustain and healer shenanigans. Oh my god, this lady is a crazy healer. But as I was noting before, the game is kind of shifting away from healers, and I wish that I had a little bit more support for strategies like Helena's sequential healing and some of her other stuff, like having Helena and Dario and, I don't know, maybe Blood Sword Sterne on a team together might replace in some ways Sylvie, but I don't know, it's kind of hard to replace that full life sometimes. Whew, this character can really do some stuff. But at the same time, like, pseudo-limited units are really hard to build, but pseudo-limited units can almost be harder in that they're technically available more often, but because of that, you're not really given as much every time they're available in a way. Like, I don't know quite how to explain that. It seems like they should be less limited than collaboration units, but in practice they can be even harder to build sometimes. I think the intersection of those two problems is like holiday limited units sometimes, but it really depends on a number of factors as well. Like if you can do hard quests for them and things like that, which you can't for Sylvie, unfortunately. So the only shards I'm getting are coming from my barracks. Also, are we not getting global exclusive units anymore? I mean, I guess Worldwide might have ended that, but I thought that they said that they were still going to be doing that as a practice. Like, that wouldn't be an end to that. Oh well. But as you just saw here, as I just talked through, the Katana synergy teams, especially on this map, are quite powerful and quite strong. And even though it's been a while for him, and even though, like, you know, released around the same time, Celeste, even though Celeste isn't quite doing the things that she used to, Astrius is still quite strong. He has the follow-up attack. He has ways, he has healing through damage, which is one of they're both qualities that I've highlighted throughout this video as being good. He also has some CT up shenanigans now too, which is another thing that I've talked about a lot in this video, come to think of it. And on top of all of that, he's a katana unit, which means that now he has a really strong tank. And like, there wasn't a katana tank before. Now that I think about it, or at least if I'm missing out on a katana tank, it probably wasn't that good. Let's be real. Who is it? Who? But you know, there are about 200 units in the game at this point. Maybe I'm missing out on somebody, but like, it feels like that team, I'm not necessarily sure. The Katana team was doing well before this, and I'm kind of slowly trying to build a Katana team for myself. I feel like it's an interesting job type that's putting in work and has some really cool cards for it. But at the same time, maybe it is doing even... It could just be because he's a newer unit. It could be because he can deal with magical units in a way that maybe had been a little bit of a weakness for Katana. I hadn't consistently seen it in Arena before this, but I am seeing a lot more Katana job-based teams now. And I know and in part, it's because Wind and Katana are getting boosts, so he's getting the strongest boost on the Katana team often. But he's really getting boosted up by the arena. Maybe that's part of it. But at the same time, these Katana teams seem like they're doing really well. So it really strikes me as though maybe they did need a good tank within their damage type to be able to boost their capabilities into being a great team. Man, that was a nail biter. That one really went back and forth for a while. And sometimes Helena to Helena matches can be like that. Also, I wish that this was a 140 Lynx the Crystalborn, but holy crap, it's a Shadow Lynx team. I don't expect this to be very good. The VCs on it aren't the best, but some of them are pretty good. Some of them work for parts of it. There really isn't a synergy that combines Ninja Blade, Bow, and Lance. That's a lot to ask for a set of VCs for your team. There aren't any Shadow Lynx buffs, even though you can make an all Shadow Lynx team. But that being said, there are some synergies here between the various Shadow Lynxes that might make them particularly difficult to go up against. I think, especially against regular Shadow Lynx, the MR Shadow Lynx that's running up the center that's more evasion focused, I'm going to have some trouble with, especially seeing how much damage Sterne just took, because he's definitely my most accurate unit, and there is a non-zero chance that no one else on my team can hit her. And he can't hit her. Now, I think that Helena has a chance, and I think that he has a bigger chance. I don't think Sylvie's going to be able to hit her, though. She's really bad with evasion. And he's missed another shot, so it's looking pretty bad for the team. But we've taken out the rest of their team, and we have sustained. This is only an MR unit. We are 3, they are 1. I've got Reraise. Come on, don't die just yet. You're our only hope. But so far, hitting her is only... Oh, nope. I was going to say, so far, hitting her is only theoretical. But there we did. We finished it out. Finally. Got that last hit in. Here's a more physically based water team. But let's look for more wind, more Dario. I've already shown that off enough in the other guide. I cannot for the life of me think of what the synergy is here. It seems like each one of these characters is equipped the way that you would want to equip them on another team, but without any broader synergies to, you know, like each character has 2 vision cards that work for it, but no cards that work for all 3. But I get it, it's hard to build tri-elemental teams where there isn't an obvious synergy. Also, I've seen that team a number of times. Huh, well that's interesting, but yeah, we'll do it, I think. There's plenty of katana here. Nope. Dario and ice. No thanks. Some dark. No thanks. Man, I'm picky today. New dark. Sephiroth. Dark with Helena. Odaiba. Can I still beat Odaiba? That's an interesting question. I don't know if anyone has been following my, like, maybe entirely one-sided Odaiba rivalry. He was mean to me on Reddit one time, and I've just been posting videos of beating him whenever I see him in arena. So hopefully I can beat Odaiba. He is definitely one of the #1 guild battle players in the world, and also a great content creator. So I'm definitely proud of myself if my broke ass can even put a dent in his team. And if we can get around evasion, this is going to be kind of like the Shadow Links team, to where it's really going to be a question of if I can deal with their evasion unit, because I think I can deal with the rest of the team, but that... Oh, okay, that's probably the best person to get berserked, but also not great. I'm just glad no one else got zerked. The reflect is useless. And the healing was abundant, but not enough to keep Sterne in the game. He does have Reraise, though. Extra CT, extra... Oh, but the follow-up hit and double CT up for herself. But it still wasn't enough to take him out. Just a little bit more damage, and that would have been the end of it for him. And he wouldn't have been able to take out his brother. Now, we definitely still have a chance, but... Like, can we hit Yuffie? That's entirely a theoretical, and my only unit that's going to be able to close that out is now revived, thankfully. But the only unit that can revive him has Reraise, thankfully. And, ooh, good healing there. She's trying to make a move, but not able to hit Catone. Catone's got so much follow-up damage and CT up. Look at all that. And healing. She really benefits from things that add to her damage, because she's going to be doing a lot of... She's like a mosquito. Like a mosquito with a machine gun. So for every hit, for every effect that you can add natively to her hits, like, she'd be a really great unit to have, say, like Thornlit. There's probably a lot of ways that you could go in building her out. And man, this is like the second video of mine that's turned into me gushing about how strong Catone is in theory. Maybe I should go back and try to pull for her a little bit harder. But it's not to be. Anyways, I was able to beat Odaiba, so the rivalry continues. I don't run into him a ton, but so far I haven't lost. And also, I want to point something out, probably one of the best pieces of arena advices that you're going to get, and I just didn't think about including it in my other video, but thank you for watching so far. One, like and subscribe, but I'm going to give you a benefit for watching this much of this video. Did you know there is absolutely no reason that you can't change your teams like every match if you need to? You know, beating your head against a wall against who you're going to take on next isn't a problem that you have to have if you have multiple decent teams. And certain times you can violate an element so well that you don't even necessarily need a good team to beat them if you have the right strategy. I have a really old video about doing this against Earth with Wind. It's honestly probably still kind of relevant, but also probably not so much against the super new units. But I still think that building a high Earth resistance is probably the best way to go against most Earth teams. That being said, I think for a lot of you, especially newer players, focusing all of your resources into building one good team is the best way to go. But if you've been in the game for a little while and you've built multiple teams and, you know, this honestly, like, even if you have only one good team, you could just spec them differently for various teams and switch between sets of equipment. You have 10 slots, make good use of them. And with that, as much as I appreciate you being here, I've got a lot of other things to do today. I love you guys so much for sticking around, guys and gals. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. And, well, I guess with that, you know, again, like and subscribe. Best of luck with your folk acquisition. Best of luck staying within the top 1,000. You definitely want to put in a little bit of extra work early in the week over just doing 10 rounds per day. Just as a little bit of a life insurance, because 2 orbs on Sunday doesn't go very far. And if you have a lot of catching up to do, you might find that you're having to pay a little bit of Viz to stay in the game and stay in the top 5k. I don't think so, though. I think you should be comfortably, even if you're losing a lot of matches, and even losing more matches today, with all of my accounts, I still managed to get relatively high. So maybe you won't have that trouble as often, but again, it's better to put in the work a little bit earlier on than later, because there's just a lot of time you can't get back within Arena. So again, thank you so much for watching. I've been Jackie Fox. This has been way too much of my time this week. But I hope you appreciate it. Show your appreciation and click that link down below. Ways to donate to the channel. There's ways to check out more Jackie Fox stuff. Give more views to more of my projects. I would super appreciate it. And with all of that being said, buy a book. Get a Folka. Have fun. And I'll see you in the next one.